and welcome to week 12 of Wild What's Up. My name is Lauren and I'm a naturalist with Nebraska Game and Parks. We've gone through 12 weeks now of answering your nature-related questions. Remember, if you have a question about nature, you can comment it under this video, or you can also email me at ngpc.wildwhatsup@nebraska.gov. So if you have a question about nature, make sure to email me, comment on this video, or come see me in person at Schramm Education Center. This week we are talking about a super awesome topic. An animal that I am very excited about. An animal that is often elusive, that you maybe don't see very often in the wild, but you know they're there. This week we are talking about those four-legged, super smiley insect eaters that are active at night. They can regrow their tails. They can have gills, lungs, or neither. They can just breathe through their skin. The Americas have more species of this than the entire world combined. Can you guess it? That's right, salamanders. Salamanders are super cool and have amazing adaptations, and we're just going to talk about a few of them today. So our first question of the day comes from Sawyer. He is 3 years old and he's from Lincoln, Nebraska. Hey Sawyer. Sawyer has had a lot of questions recently about communication and how do animals talk. And so his question is, how then do salamanders talk or communicate with each other? Which is a really good question. Salamanders actually are not really known for making a lot of verbal or audible noises. They don't really talk or use their mouth. They don't really have a voice box to communicate with each other. Instead, they communicate through touching and releasing pheromones, or really smelly substances, through their skin. They nudge each other with their noses during breeding season and use their tiny hands to push on each other when others are too close. So just by touching and by using smell is basically how they communicate. A lot of other animals use this as well too. Snakes depend on pheromones as a form of communications. Some forms of mammals, a lot of insects depends on smells for communication, because not all animals are able to create noise. So that's a really good question. We'll move on to our second question. Our second question of the day is from Kiara. Kiara is 4 years old and is from Creston, Iowa. And her question was, where are salamanders born? Right? Where do we find them when they're first born? Where do mama salamanders have their babies? So salamanders in Nebraska, some salamanders have live birth, but all of our salamanders in Nebraska are born in small eggs that don't have a shell. So they're kind of like frog eggs. If you think of them, they're kind of like little jelly eggs. So amphibians go through metamorphosis. When they're born in the egg, they then turn into a larval form, which looks a lot like the regular salamander, but they have gills and they breathe underwater. So, right, we know that salamanders are amphibians. An amphibian is defined as beginning their life in water and ending their adult stages on land. So, like I said, they're generally born in these small ponds, they eat small insects, they breathe water, and then when their gills go away from their larval form, they turn into adults, those gills start to shrink away, and then they go out onto land. Now they still need water and they still need these super moist places, but it's so interesting that you start as a water creature and you end as a creature who lives on land. They start breathing water and filtering air through water, and then they end up breathing air through lungs. That's so interesting to me. I think that's really cool. This is also an example of phenotypic plasticity, which is a really long word, but it basically means that as this animal goes through its life stages, how it looks and how their body moves and works, it changes as they grow, which is really interesting. Okay, so our third question is from Devon, and Devon is from Waverly, Nebraska. So Devon's question then is, where do I find salamanders? Right? Salamanders are such a super cool species, or such a cool, interesting type of animal. I want to go see some. So where do we find salamanders? Like I said at the beginning, salamanders are very secretive and they're kind of hard to find. They don't really like humans, they don't like other animals, they just want to be on their own. So they live most of their lives hiding in mud, small ponds, and sometimes they even live under houses or inside basements. To find salamanders, look for these wet areas that have a lot of insects, as this is most of what their diet is made out of. In Nebraska, we have two different species, and that is the western barred tiger salamander, which is somewhat common. They're in a lot of different places. And we also have the narrow-mouthed salamander. Now, the narrow-mouthed salamander is a little bit harder and more rare to find. tiger salamanders, like this guy here, are dark colored and have yellow blotches. Narrow-mouthed salamanders are a dark bluish color, and like I said, they're a little more rare to find. But remember, if you find a salamander, never touch them. Like I said, salamanders are amphibians, right? And we know with amphibians, their skin is permeable. It is a semi-permeable membrane, which means that when we hold them, any oils or chemicals or anything that's on our hand is going to be absorbed into their skin, into their bloodstream. And so by holding them, we can actually harm them. So if you see a salamander, you can take a lot of pictures, you can watch them for a while and observe them, maybe make a sketch, but just make sure you don't touch them. Okay, so these were all super great questions. Salamanders are a really fun thing to talk about. We only even scratched the surface on amazing salamander facts. Salamanders are super important, and unfortunately, they're very susceptible to pollution and climate change. Studying salamanders shows us how areas have been affected and can be a key species in determining a habitat's health. Salamanders are super cool, and I hope they are around for a long time. Once again, guys, thank you so much for your questions. I'm glad you guys are interested in nature, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at ngpc.wildwhatsup@nebraska.gov. You can also comment on this video. You can send the Schramm Education Center or the Nebraska Game and Parks Facebook page a private message, or you can come just see me in person. I work at Schramm Education Center as a naturalist with Nebraska Game and Parks. Nebraska has some amazing areas to look at wildlife and to just enjoy nature. So make sure you're getting out there. We're hitting some great weather. The summer heat is maybe starting to dissipate away, and we should be out there enjoying all we can see in nature. Okay guys, keep asking your questions, and I'll see you later.